Hey everyone, welcome back. You know, dating's changed so much, right? Even just in the last couple of years, it's kind of a whole different world out there now with all the apps and stuff. And ghosting, seriously, what is with that?
Yeah, totally.
So today we're going to do a deep dive into all of that, your research, and try to figure out how dating even works these days. Is romance even still a thing? Or is it dead?
I think that's the big question, yeah.
See if we can figure it out.
Okay, so I think what's super interesting about all this is it all goes back to really basic human needs, right? The need to connect with people, have intimacy, and feel like you belong, But the ways we try to do that, they're changing crazy fast.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So let's start with maybe the most annoying thing ever. Ghosting. Poof, gone, no explanation. Ugh, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Why do people do that?
Right. I mean, you're right. It's awful. It hurts. But there's this interesting study by Dr. Gilly Friedman, and her research shows that ghosting could be, well, it might be because people are less emotionally available these days. Basically, it's like they have trouble saying how they feel, especially if it's something, negative.
So it's not just them being jerks, they just can't deal with a difficult conversation.
Yeah, maybe. It's easier to just, avoid the whole thing and disappear than risk an awkward or, uncomfortable talk.
Wow. So it's a big emotional thing going on there, huh? But then there's also this whole thing about, our culture. Everything's so fast now, right? Instant gratification and everything's disposable,
Absolutely. And with the apps, dating apps, it's there's this feeling that something better is just a swipe away. So we're constantly judging and comparing and.
Yeah. And that makes it way easier to just dish someone. No big deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's commitment just isn't what it used to be.
Okay. That's kind of depressing. But what about those situationships? You're kind of together, but not really. It's so confusing.
Oh, for sure. Situationships are a thing. And it does show how our ideas about commitment are changing. They're this weird in-between zone, not just dating, but not a real relationship either.
Right, right.
And I think part of it is social norms are just different now. You think about it, in the past, a lot of people got married young because of pressure, right? Or for financial stability. But now people are more independent financially, and there's more focus on personal growth. So there's less rush to settle down,
Yeah, that makes sense. So maybe situationships are just people testing the waters before they go all in.
Totally. It's a way to figure things out. And of course, we can't talk about dating these days without talking about the big one, right? Dating apps.
Oh yeah, for sure. Those things are everywhere. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge. It's everyone's on them.
Yeah, they've totally changed the game.
Yeah. But do they actually make it easier to find love? Or just make it more, more complicated?
It's definitely both. I mean, on the one hand, it's great, right? You can connect with tons of people, way more than you ever could just through friends or work or whatever.
That's true.
And most apps, they use those algorithms to, match you based on things you have in common.
Oh, right.
But that can also be a problem. Have you ever heard of choice overload? It's a real thing.
No. What's that?
Well, there's this guy, Barry Schwartz, and he wrote this book about it, The Paradox of Choice. And basically, he says that having too many options can actually make us less happy with the choices we make.
Huh. Interesting.
Because we get paralyzed by all the possibilities, we can't decide. And even when we do choose, we're oh, but what about that other person,
Okay, yeah, I totally get that. Sometimes I spend, hours just swiping, and then I never even go on any dates. It's my brain just gets fried.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of all that, you've got social media. I mean, let's be real. Have you ever, looked at someone's Instagram before a date?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But isn't everyone doing that these days?
Probably. But the problem is social media is all about showing the perfect version of yourself, right?
Yeah.
A highlight reel. It's not real life.
Right.
So it sets up all these crazy expectations. It makes it harder to connect with people, for real, because you're falling for this image, not the actual person.
It's you're dating their profile, not them.
Exactly.
Okay, so with all this craziness with dating apps and ghosting and, perfect Instagram lives, is true love even possible anymore?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, are we all just waiting for our soulmate? That perfect match? But what if that doesn't even exist?
Yeah.
Maybe we're so overwhelmed with all these choices that we're scared to actually commit to anyone. And then we just end up settling for good enough, and we're always wondering if we're missing out on something better.
It's funny you say that, because in your research, it talks about this good enough partner thing. Like maybe all these like perfect lives we see online are making us too picky in real life. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And that brings us to like another big thing, right? The whole mental health aspect of modern dating. It's not just about finding love anymore. It's like navigating this crazy, complicated landscape where you could get rejected or disappointed or end up, with anxiety.
Totally. It can be really stressful. Like
Mhm.
you're always being judged and compared, and it can mess with your self-esteem.
Yeah, it's tough. There's this pressure, like you have to be in a relationship, and if you're single, there's something wrong with you, and then there's like the fear of missing out, and it's just a lot.
Okay, so big question time.
Mm.
Is romance dead? It sounds like, I don't know, things are definitely way more complicated than they used to be.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say romance is dead. I think it's more like it's changing, transforming. Like how it survives is up to us. We have to adapt to all these challenges, be mindful, and make good choices about how we use technology and how we, treat each other.
So it's not about like going back to the old ways, but finding new ways to connect in this like new world.
Yeah. Like, we got to be honest about what we want, say it clearly, and remember that real connection takes time. It's not instant.
That's a great point. So to all you listeners out there, I want to leave you with this. What's one small thing you could change in your own life to, build better, more real connections? Maybe delete a dating app, be more mindful of how you're using social media, or just, I don't know, make time for real life hangouts instead of always being online. You have the power to change how we do relationships. It's up to you.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.